Hey Rebels, my name is Matthew Barton. Welcome to the Rebellion Brewing Podcast. We all know there are multiple ways to pay for things in exchange for goods and services. Hang on, stay with me. Don't fall asleep just yet. But cash isn't just king. Most money these days exists in a digital space. Today, I'm sitting down with Dan Benesh to tackle Bitcoin, beer, and Barterpay. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Matthew. I appreciate it.
How's it going?
Awesome. I mean, the temperature's hot. The sun is out. It's a great time to be alive in Saskatchewan.
It is so damn hot, I don't even want to wait to drink today's beer.
Oh, well, do we have to? Is there any reason to do that?
We absolutely have to. It's a beer podcast.
No, I mean, do we have to wait?
No.
Okay, then.
Okay, let me introduce this one to you. It's called This Spud's For You. It's a potato lager, and it's 4.5% ABV. It's from the Establishment Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. They're based out of Alberta. I've tried this beer once before, and I think it's neat, and I'm really excited to share it with you.
Awesome. Okay. The Establishment.
Cheers.
Cheers to the Establishment.
I've had the boys from the Establishment on in the past, and just nice guys. Great guys doing really interesting beers. And one thing I like about their labels is they're always these kinds of like interesting shapes, and it's nothing that it's all abstract. You know, it's not like here's a hot rod.
Yeah, is potato a typical thing to have in a beer?
Absolutely not.
Okay, because I mean, this doesn't taste. It's not like I drink this and think this tastes like potato. Like it tastes like a fine, light, great summer beer. I could be drinking this on a patio.
It's not a McDonald's French fry in a cup.
That's the truth. Interesting. Yeah. It's like I've only recently gotten into beers more heavily, I would say, in the last 5 years. I still can't really handle, or I still can't handle a really hoppy IPA. It just is very bitter. It kind of makes me cringe. This thing definitely does not.
This is the opposite of an IPA.
Okay. Cool. I think I found something I can hit.
Light, pale, straw in color. It's got a very mild aroma, a little bit of a crisp, dry finish, and a very, very faint potato character, but nothing that I would say is like earthy or off-putting.
Yeah.
Very easy to drink.
I'm not much of a, like I haven't really gotten into the beer connoisseur thing where I'm kind of differentiating and stuff. It's just kind of like drink, do I like, yes, no, and kind of classify it that way. And this, I'd classify it as yes.
So usually I would say thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh, for sure, thumbs up. Yeah, definitely.
You drink this again.
I would drink this again.
And it's also the kind of beer you want when it's like plus 30s like it is today.
Yeah. Does it mix with anything, do you know? Like some people do like put some orange juice or something in various different drinks or?
You could if you want. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but I would just drink it like this.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's a Saskatchewan thing to throw a bunch of clam in your beer.
Oh, my mom is very bad for that. She loves clam. Yeah. And everywhere she goes, she doesn't just get the beer and clam. She orders an extra side of clam so she can continue to adjust as she drinks it.
Really?
Yeah.
She tops up.
Yeah. Very clammy beer.
That must be a mom thing.
I don't know.
My mom loves beer and clam. I can't.
No, I love clam and I love Caesars, right? But when you just chuck beer in there, it's kind of like you're just wrecking both of them.
So let's get into what we kind of sat down and to talk about today, which was I see you posting about finances and stocks and all these kinds of things online, and you're very, very open in giving your opinion and analysis. And I kind of want to say, what's your background? How did you get into being really interested in finances and this kind of stuff?
Yeah, such a good question, because coming from the raising, the childhood that I had, there was never any excess money for investing. It was just never a topic in any of our houses. It was like my dad grew up on a farm and then moved to the city when he had kids early. So immediately he just kind of got into a job so that he could pay the bills. And when my mom and him separated, then they had, co-parenting duties, and so they had their own jobs and their own finances and stuff. And as we grew up, it was never vacations and investments and stuff. It was, okay, do we have the bills paid and enough food for the kids' lunches and stuff? So I never really had too much experience with it until I would say, once I started earning my own money and got through university, became a teacher, and started teaching about finances and things like that. I have a business education degree, which is a very rare degree to have. The program doesn't exist anymore. I know you're chuckling. It does sound weird because there's business administration degrees, and then a business education degree was for those teachers who were going to teach the classes like information processing, law, accounting, marketing, like anything financial related. Budgeting and personal finance was a course that we were trying to get put into the schools. And so all of those courses are best taught by a teacher with a business education degree. However, because it's so niche and sometimes schools would only offer one or two of those courses, they didn't have enough money to hire a business education teacher. So it was like, okay, what do we got? Well, accounting, okay, give that to the math teacher. And typing, oh, we'll give that to the arts ed teacher. They just make up roles for these classes. So I have a business education degree, and obviously going through that, I learned a lot about corporate finance and then got into stocks and investing because I had to teach it to the students. Still never was interested in investing myself because to me it felt like an adult bingo, so to speak. What did I know about better than any other person to pick the right stock? And I think that's where 90% of people are at. They're told basically it's the long game. You put your money into the stock market, you don't think about it for 20, 30 years, then you retire and you take your now exceedingly large amount of money and retire, right?
That's the dream.
That's the trick, right? And along the way, the people that sell the mutual funds and get paid for you doing stock trades and stuff, they make their cut along the way, but obviously the goal is to grow your money. I never really got too opinionated about it until Bitcoin came around. So that's kind of 10 years ago?
2008 was kind of
my God, 14 years?
So what happened was, you remember the economy fucked up.
Did it?
And
I think I blocked that from my memory.
So you had those asset-backed securities, and
Yeah.
you had that huge market crash in '08, and out of that came a whole bunch of tech nerds and finance nerds who were like, screw the corporate global elite who control everything, screw the big banks, let's go it our own way, let's make a digital currency that's not fiat, that's not controlled by government, that's not controlled by some nefarious third world conspiracy theory, or whatever you think.
Right, yep.
And then it became like Bitcoin was one of the ones to emerge, right? Like
Right.
if you remember, and this is my memory because I was a journalist at the time, there were multiple competing currencies, electronic currencies, and they were all problematic for different reasons. But Bitcoin was kind of the one that managed to climb up the greased pole and survive that initial kind of like scrum.
Right.
And then it's just grown from there.
Yeah. And I mean, the most disturbing thing about Bitcoin is the environmental footprint of it. Like, I mean, I just hear on CNN, Biden passes some sweeping environmental bill, the biggest one in history. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, but like, I heard at one point, like 1/8 of the power usage of some country or one state or something like that was like all Bitcoin mining. I'm like, how do we reconcile these two things together? That we care about the environment, but yet we're also so pro business and pro-choice and amendments and whatever. People can just do whatever they want, especially in business, right? As long as you're not, you're following all the laws. But this just doesn't make sense.
So 2008, you get interested or engaged.
I get interested in Bitcoin, and it was, maybe took me to 2010 to really pay attention, because until then it was like, you're right, it was all of like the tech nerds that were like, this is going to be the next big thing, and right now it's only worth a half a penny each, but soon, and it was just like, yeah, sure, I've heard this before. Sounded like every other scam of bait and switch kind of thing and pump and dump that you've heard of through your entire life. So I didn't put much stock in it. And even as it kept going up, I was like, you guys understand that our current financial system is already pretty mysterious and has its own problems. We don't need to invent another one that also now, for some reason, burns a lot of fossil fuels in doing it.
I guess my initial thought about Bitcoin is I'm very pessimistic and very negative towards it. I view it as this giant shell game, and they're just waiting for the next sucker to come along and get hosed. And one thing that I used to work in consumer protection. And so the Consumer Protection Agency at the time did not regulate Bitcoin.
Right.
had no say over Bitcoin or what's going on.
Yeah, and when new technologies come up like that, it often takes a while.
Yeah.
It's a wild, wild west until the governments kind of decide they want to step in.
I would say the cycle is probably about 10 to 15 years before governments can really catch up to what's going on.
Yeah.
But the tech cycle works much faster.
Right.
And so these Bitcoin things were happening. And one of the lessons I learned was when people get scammed, I'm not talking about Bitcoin now. I'm just talking about imagine you pay someone to mow your lawn all summer long. You give them $300, that's their job.
Yeah.
Mow my lawn.
Yeah.
Guy shows up once and then he never shows up again. He's got your money, he's gone. Most people don't report that they got scammed. They don't want to tell people. They don't want to look foolish. They don't want people to think less of them.
Right.
So the majority of fraud and scams out there, we don't hear about. We hear about the guy who bought a house with Bitcoin, the guy who paid for his wife's IVF, the guy who went and bought a McLaren with Bitcoin. But we don't hear about everybody else who got hosed
Yeah.
because they don't want to appear foolish.
Of course.
And they're not evil, bad, immoral people. They got caught. They got bit. And they lost.
Yeah. They bought a story that someone else was telling about us. We're not talking, we're just talking scams in general. And I mean, like, there's Bitcoin came, and then of course hundreds, I'm assuming thousands now maybe, of other coins. And this was the interesting thing. This is like, I actually wanted to be excited about Bitcoin. I really did, because of what I do with Barterpay. We have our clients buy and sell things without real money. And so when Bitcoin came about, I was like, okay, it's kind of scary because, potentially if Bitcoin took over the world and everyone started using it to transact, it may make my job more difficult. So I was kind of like cautious but curious. At the same time, I remember saying publicly, it doesn't matter what you call whatever instrument we use to buy goods and services. It doesn't matter what you call it. Call it money, call it Bitcoin, potato skins. I don't care what you call it to trade. But what you're doing is trading, because you can't eat that money. You need food to live. So you need to give that money to someone else to get food in return. Now, as you mentioned in the intro, 95% of what we do now is electronic. So that money is just sitting in our account. So you can't even eat the paper money if you decided that you wanted to. And that's the same thing with Barterpay. Our trade dollars are just in an account, and you pay them to someone else and get something else in return. And with Bitcoin, I remember I was being so excited. I was like, this would be kind of cool. You go around the world, find all these places that take Bitcoin, use your Bitcoin. But the problem with it is that it just had almost zero utility whatsoever, except for like criminals and human trafficking and drugs and stuff. And so then I'm like, well, why do I want to hitch my cart to that if that's all it's being used for?
One of the things I will say, and I do want to give Bitcoin a little bit of credit for, is people say, oh, well, it's used for child trafficking and drugs and everything else. I'm like, what stopped regular money from being used for drugs and child trafficking? Like, real money was used for that too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think that's probably the smallest criticism of like the anonymity of it.
Anything of value could be used for payment for any services, legal or illegal. Really.
Okay, so you get into Bitcoin, or you're observing it and you're watching it. You mentioned Barterpay, which is kind of like the next step that I wanted to get into. What is Barterpay and why are you doing it?
So Barterpay is a business-to-business trading network. We help business owners buy the things that they want to buy without spending cash. And the way that we do that is through a mechanism called the trade dollars. So it's 1-for-1 with the Canadian dollar.
Pegged to the Canadian.
Yes, very important, because whereas you can look at your Bitcoin or any other crypto account and it can be worth 5% or 5,000% of what it was worth the night before based on no factors whatsoever, your trade dollars will always be worth 1-to-1 with the Canadian dollar. Very important. It's inflation proof, and it's not an alternative currency like the cryptos are. It's what's called a complementary currency. And so Barterpay is registered with the CRA as a trade exchange, and everything we do is fully legal and above board. Transactions for every single and receipts for every single transaction that goes through our system.
So you guys get audited by the government and all that stuff?
We haven't been lately, but when we first launched, like I'm saying I wasn't a part of the company back then, but 25 years ago when they first launched and went for the designations, they were audited the first 3 years just to make sure that they're doing everything on the up and up. And as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been a full audit, only micro audits on various different things along the way, but we've always been in compliance. So
why would a business sign up for this?
That's a great question. I mean, I answer this question all the time because everybody thinks cash is king. Why would I trade? And a lot of times they think if I ever did want to trade, I could just do it myself. And so those are sometimes the questions that I'm answering when I'm in person. So yeah, maybe you could trade yourself, but oftentimes it's probably only the business owner that's really going to be authorized to trade. They're already busy enough. So do they want to start calling, like, let's say they need tires. What are they going to call around to 10 different tire shops in the city and say, hey, can I trade whatever my service is and get some tires in return? It's just a waste of time. So instead, a business can just join the Barterpay network, trade some of their products and services, whatever their comfort level is, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Now they have those credits in their account that never expire.
Okay. But why not just use cash? Like, why pick Barterpay?
Yeah. So Barterpay has that in-group mentality. Once a business has the trade dollars, they can't use it to pay their lease, and they can't use it to pay their employees, and they can't use it to do not payroll, but like pay their bills and whatever. So you're thinking, geez, that sounds terrible. But the reason why they choose to do it is because of that in-group mentality. So when you join Barterpay, you get business that you never would have had from the cash world. And even being a member of Barterpay, the people that come supporting you, they're oftentimes spending more. We find that when people going out to restaurants, if they know that they're not having to pay cash, they're more likely to get an extra drink, extra dessert, that sort of thing. And also, it simplifies their life. So business owners look at me and look at Barterpay like a business connection hub for them. So they don't want to have to always go through and vet people. And I can't say that we can vet every single business that we have on board 100% and that nothing is ever going to go wrong. But I mean, after I do business with a guy for 10 years who does duct cleaning and we never get a single complaint, I mean, that's pretty good. So when you call me and say, hey, do you have a duct cleaner? And I can send you the best guy in the city and you don't have to pay cash for it. I mean, win-win.
Okay. So what's happening is, let me just throw this out there.
Sure.
For example, a business comes to us and says, hey, if you give me a bunch of beer, not cash, give me a bunch of beer and I'll deliver these services to you. Mm-hmm. And then it's a bit of a negotiation, evaluation. What is those services worth to us? You're just saying, don't worry about that. Ignore that negotiation. Mm-hmm. Just engage with my system where you can do a trade for some beer and get some services.
Yeah. So the situation that you're describing is what's called a direct trade. And in the regular economy, it's something that actually happens very rare. Like it happens, but it happens very rarely because you need to want what the other person has at the exact same time that they want what you have, unless you're going to do an IOU, which is its own other ballgame that I don't want to get into. But so you need to want what each other has at the exact same time. It needs to be like relatively pretty close to the exact same value to facilitate that trade without any cash happening, and at the exact same time. So somebody might come in and say, hey, I want your beer right now. I'm having a party or a tournament, and I'll provide you $1,000 worth of plumbing services next time your toilet goes out. Well, okay. Is that a good deal for you guys? Maybe. It depends, right? How soon do you think you're going to need plumbing repairs? Do you need it right now? If you do, that's a very good deal for you, and you should take it right away. If you don't need it, and now you're going to carry this IOU, which I didn't want to talk about, but now I am. You're going to carry this IOU for many months until you need something, and then you're going to hope that this company is actually going to live up to their end of the bargain. So instead of doing those direct trades, which I consider to be a lot more riskier, Barterpay eliminates that because you might sell beer and that plumber might buy it, but if his company goes out of business, it doesn't matter because we have another one that can come and do the work that you actually need.
So it's a bit of a backstop.
Oh, for sure. 100% is a backstop. Yeah. We've had many businesses that have had gift cards out in the economy, and when they've closed, and usually with their permission too, if they have trade dollars left, we can refund all of the Barterpay people who bought gift cards. Show me that happening in the cash world. Never happens.
I've been burned on gift cards.
Oh, for 100%. Yeah. You get them for a gift or you buy them and they sit in your drawer for a couple of years, and all of a sudden you see on the news, oh, this place is closed. What do you do? There's nothing to do. You throw it out.
You know what happened to me? I went and I bought my wife a massage package at a well-known spa. And literally a month after I purchased that gift card, they went out of business.
No.
I was like...
You must have known, right?
Excuse me?
Like they must have known.
They had to have known.
Oh, yeah.
They were clearly circling the drain when they sold me that gift card.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Bastards.
Hey, good on you for not naming them. I mean,
that just lends into my natural skepticism.
Of course.
Against, like, gift cards.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin and all these other things where
Right.
I'm like, you fucking you mother.
You get scammed once, and that, yeah, it definitely leads to the trust issues for sure.
Like Mark will roll his eyes. Mark, my boss, we're in the tap room and somebody's buying a gift card. I'm like, just just cash king, baby. Again, at a birthday party or something. It's like gift cards give people social license to not try hard. Here's a gift card to Best Buy.
Yeah.
Because I know you like computer games.
Easiest
It's
gift ever.
You know what? Just give me cash. Just give me the straight hard cash.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to give you.
Well, think back to when you were like 10 to 15 years old. Cash was the best gift you could get on your birthday.
From grandma?
Like some little toy, whatever. You play with it a couple times, and then it just gets wrecked or goes in the bin, right, with your other toys.
From all the times I've been burned, I'm just circle back to you. Give me that.
Yeah, give me that cash. The cash I can have in my hand or see it in my bank account. Yeah, for sure. So obviously, we're coming up on my 11th year anniversary here of bartering in Regina on August 11th. And you don't get that far, I guess, without... It's baby steps. Everybody was skeptical when I first launched.
Right.
And so it's just very slowly and over time, continuously trying, first of all, getting up every day and going out to barter, teaching people about barter. So now we built it up to over 230 businesses just in Regina. Somebody bought the Saskatoon franchise, and that one's up to 260 members. So almost 500 members across Canada, all small business, locally owned. I would very likely recognize the owner in the street, especially Mark.
Right.
Nice mullet, Mark.
So I guess my follow-up is, how do you overcome a carbuncle like me who's super grumpy and not at all excited about it?
Yep.
And very, very skeptical. How do you what's your approach?
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you were a business owner and I was pitching you and you're very skeptical, my best sales pitch in that scenario is, first, I find something that you're literally about to spend money on, right? So we talk, we go through it, and you say, well, you know what? I was literally about to pay $800 to have my parking lot swept. Could you do that for me? Do you think you could find someone to do that? And I say, I don't know, but I'm going to try. And so if I go out and get it and I get your parking lot swept, and instead of, you get to keep now your cold hard cash, and instead you give me those gift cards that you hate. Now what do you say, Mr. Curmudgeon? You say, okay, that was pretty good. I like that.
I know for some people, getting that gift card for the business, to give out a gift card it's easier than handing out cash, because then they're only managing the cost of the good rather than the full value of that dollar. Maybe it's like 60 cents per dollar was the cost to them. So you kind of get to be a big man.
Right. Well, you view it as you don't view a trade dollar as $1 Canadian. You view it as whatever it cost you to get it. So if you are trading off gift cards and you think, well, when people come and redeem them, they're going to get some food and drinks. Average cost might be 30 to 50% depending on what they buy. So you're looking at it and saying, I'm saving maybe half price.
Who's the most popular amongst your BarterPay crew?
Of the business owners we have on board?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Like, you got to have some that are just like...
Oh, for sure. Okay,
whales,
so
right?
there's one that we got to have like so many restrictions on, because if we didn't, they would like literally have every single trade dollar in the network. So Paradise Leisurescapes, everybody wants a smoker, a hot tub, a barbecue, chemicals and whatever, right? So we have to have restrictions, and I work with the owner and make sure that he's doing trades that make sense for him. Another very popular one in the advertising space would be captive media. So it's a nice simple way of blanketing the city, because you get into all of like the high-end restaurants, universities and stuff like that. Just a good affordable way to get your message out there to a lot of different people.
Like the dudes who have the ads in front of the urinal, and you're standing there having a whiz, and you got 15 seconds staring at that.
Exactly.
You can barter
book
pay
that
for their...
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
And so if I want to buy like chlorine tablets from Leisurescape, dude.
Yeah.
Really?
If we can't get it from him, we usually have a couple other... We try to have a couple in each industry because of that situation, right? My job as the barter broker is to keep everything flowing, keep it fluid. If there's a big freeze where everyone's trying to... Like, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was tough because it turned everybody into buyers and nobody into sellers. So we had to massage that and kind of work through it and keep finding people that... I was really focused on finding people that had expiring time or expiring products, because those were the people who are much more likely to barter. If every day they had 8 hours to work and they were only working 1 or 2, let's say a massage therapist, if they're very new and slow, well, they would want to join BarterPay, because as soon as an hour goes by, they can't bill out yesterday's hours. You either have to be doing a massage to get paid, or you're not getting paid.
Right.
And so for those people, and I mean, I honestly believe that every single movie theater, every single airline, every single concert should be clamoring to us to say, you guys, we have a show in a week and we have 1,000 tickets available. How many can you trade for us? Because we're not going to sell them, right? We traded about $40,000 worth of Country Thunder passes.
So, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
How?
So the owners of the Country Thunder live in the States, but they have Saskatchewan connections. And so these guys are part of a US-based trade exchange that's called iTradePay. And we have, as a barter exchange, sub-agreements with these other companies where they can take credits from us and we can take credits from them, and we kind of go back and forth and try to keep it equal. So they're having a concert. They have, ability to sell X amount of wristbands for entries and stuff like that. And if we can sell an extra 100, or I think we did 120 or something like that, if we can sell more for them, what does it cost them? And if they're making money on drinks, it's literally free for them.
So their end game worked out.
Yeah, for sure. They just want more people going to the concert. Oh, and then you're probably wondering, well, what do they do with all this currency? So iTradePay has an agreement with Pattison in the States, which also advertises in Regina. So now they can take their trade dollars, trade it through iTradePay to us. Our members get the passes, and then they can go back next year and spend that $30,000 on billboards for their next concert, or they could be spending it right now in Alberta for Calgary Country Thunder. That's up to them. Once they have the trade, it's their asset, and they can choose what to do with it.
Cool. Okay. If somebody is curious, if there's a business here who's listening to the pod, where do they go?
Best place to start would just be barterpay.ca. And then there it'll show different regions. You click on my region, it'll have my smiling face there, and it'll have my contact info, and it'll answer all of those FAQs that you can't answer by listening to a podcast because the listeners can't ask questions.
And I guess we should mention that Rebellion is doing a trial with BarterPay starting last week.
Yeah, and it's gone swimmingly. So we got our initial batch of gift cards from you guys. I've tried to spread them out as much as I could to various different people, and now slowly those will start coming in, and people will be spending at your store.
So they'll just show up at the tap room with a Rebellion gift card.
Yeah, that's it. You guys won't even know. The staff won't even really know. So it's kind of just like mostly between me and Mark. He gets this extra revenue. Now he's got the extra burden of working with me to decide what to do with it. And we've already got some good plans in place. And then if it goes well, then I would hope that he issues more. And our test run continues for another 10 years.
Another 10 years. I love your confidence. I just, it's so confusing to me.
Yeah.
You've lost me already.
It's actually pretty simple when you think about it. Just it's money in, money out, except you can only spend and earn that money from an in-group of people. And that's how we keep it within our own club like that.
Dan, thank you for your time today, man.
Oh, it was very fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Rebels, thanks for listening today. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, be sure to join us on our brand new Facebook group page, the Rebellion Brewing Podcast. I'm going to include links to all of Dan's stuff in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. I'm also proud to let you know we're members of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. It's a one-stop shop for tons of locally produced shows from across our province. And you can find them at saskpodcastnetwork.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Untapped so you don't miss out on the latest in Sask craft beer news.